So do you like to sip tea, Mike?
Yeah, occasionally.
Do you stick your pinky up when you sip tea?
Of course I do. I'm a well-bred young gentleman. No, not really.
Yeah, I've heard that's no longer a thing, actually. You're not supposed to do that anymore. It's considered rude to stick your pinky up when you're sipping your tea. But it seems kind of natural in a lot of ways because if you're trying to have a old-style English tea and you have it in a cup or so, you're going to lift that cup up. That pinky finger doesn't have anywhere to go.
That's true.
It kind of wants to stick up and say hi to your friends around you as you're drinking.
Absolutely right. So are we talking about pinky fingers?
No pinky
Little
fingers.
Oh, okay.
But tea. We're talking about tea.
Okay. So yeah, that's our article. Sip by sip milk tea across cultures. So it's not just tea, it's milk tea. Some people prefer their tea naked. Or, unadulterated, pure would be a not less fancy way of saying unadulterated. But yes, many people like to put milk in their tea. They might also add sugar. And of course, these days, especially in Taiwan, you can go to a tea shop and get a huge range of other items added into your tea, not just milk. But I think that's kind of the basic one, right? If you're going to adjust or change your pure tea in any way, milk would probably be the most obvious one to have added to it. Do you drink tea with milk or not when you're just having a nice hot cup of tea? Not a fancy, tea stand tea, but making tea at home. Do you make it with milk and sugar?
Probably not so much. Maybe I'll add some honey to it. Most of the time when I'm going to drink tea, I need something for a cold. And that's a lovely thing about tea is that there's so many varieties out there that you can, enjoy. So you have some that are kind of geared towards helping you loosen stuff in your chest when you're feeling sick and there's stuff that can help your throat. But
we never recommend coffee for someone when they're sick, do they?
No. You also don't really drink coffee so much when you're sick. It's like you don't drink alcohol, you don't drink coffee when you're sick.
Interesting.
Right?
So they're kind of not good for you, but tea is fine.
Tea is perfect.
You're dying, have some tea, you'll feel better. And if you like it a little, if you don't, because some people, it's a bit bitter, right, when it's just natural pure tea. So they add milk or they add sugar. So we're going to be learning about milk tea, not only, English standard tea or Chinese tea, which you don't actually often add milk to, but other forms of tea and where they come from. So this is going to be really interesting. And I think by the end of it, we're going to have to make a run by the tea shop.
Tea. I need tea. Let's listen to the whole article right now. Sip by sip. Milk tea across cultures. When Taiwanese people think of milk tea, Taiwan's famous bubble tea often comes to mind. However, numerous countries have created their own versions, shaped by local tastes, traditions, and histories. In Hong Kong, silk stocking tea is a long-standing favorite. Its peculiar name comes from the cloth filter used during preparation, which resembles a silk stocking. This drink has its roots in British colonial times, when locals began blending strong black tea with evaporated milk. Today, it remains a symbol of everyday life in Hong Kong and is often served in tea restaurants. Thai milk tea is known for its bright orange color. What makes its color so vivid is the use of food coloring. Locals make it taste rich with strong tea, condensed milk, and sugar. Served over ice, it's the perfect drink to beat the heat. Spices like star anise and cardamom are sometimes added, making every sip a unique adventure. In Mongolia, milk tea takes a different form. Known as sute cai, it's a salty drink traditionally brewed with tea leaves, milk, salt, and sometimes butter. Sute cai is commonly served to guests as a sign of respect. For generations, it has sustained nomadic people through harsh winters. Each version of milk tea carries the unique flavors of its culture, making every cup meaningful in its own way. So when you drink tea, you often sip it, and it's when you're just kind of going, you're sipping it. You can sip it through a straw, of course, if it's tea from a tea shop that you bought, one of the shaken teas. But in a cup, you would also sip it, and you shouldn't make any noise when you're sipping it, really. It should be quite a quiet sound. Otherwise, you're being a bit rude. At least that's, I think, more kind of the British style at doing it. We're going to get into our article. It says, when Taiwanese people think of milk tea, Taiwan's famous bubble tea often comes to mind. So when you think of something from Taiwan and you think about tea, one of the things that you will think of first is something that comes to mind will be that bubble tea. However, numerous places have created their own versions shaped by local tastes, traditions, and histories. So milk tea, that's what they're talking about, not bubble tea, has, been created in a lot of different cultures over a lot of different hundreds of years. People have been drinking their milk tea to make themselves happy. And when you talk about numerous, we're talking about a lot of. If you have a lot of comic books, you can say, I have, there are numerous comic books in my room that I can choose from. There are a large number of. There are numerous places I would like to go to before I get too old to be able to travel. That means there are a lot of those things. So numerous countries, a lot of different countries have created their own versions, their own renditions, their own style of this milk tea. And it's been, it's been affected by certain things. It's been shaped like you would shape a tree. You would trim it so that the shape is really nice. Well, this milk tea has been shaped by certain things, local tastes, local traditions, and local histories. And those have all affected what people like in their milk tea and what they expect to get.
All right, so let's look at how some places that most of us are probably quite familiar with have shaped or influenced the way tea is served there and kind of, turned them into their own thing. It says in Hong Kong, okay, we're not going far here. In Hong Kong, silk stocking tea is a long-standing favorite. Ooh, that's a pretty sexy title there. Silk stocking tea. I think it's also just called Hong Kong tea. It's a long-standing favorite. And yes, though, that is true. I'm not sure if they're silk, but what they use, as we're going to learn to sort of filter the tea, does look like a stocking. A stocking would be a lady's sock, kind of.
Yeah.
But generally, a stocking would be very thin, almost kind of a see-through, stretchy fabric. And it wouldn't just cover the foot and the ankle. They might go all the way up the leg. And generally, a lady who's wearing a dress or a skirt, instead of wearing socks, just for fashion reasons and for also comfort and warmth, would wear a stocking. In the old days, stockings came sort of two to a pair. You would have one per leg. And now they have something, I think generally that are called pantyhose, which are sort of the two legs attached by something that goes around your waist and over your bum and other parts.
And stockings were a bit of a rough thing because you had to take care of your stockings. Silk stockings were very delicate.
Very delicate.
You might get one or two uses out of them. You might stick them in your freezer to keep them from fraying. You might put nail polish on them to keep them from fraying worse and things like that.
Yeah, and during World War II, of course, silk was used in a lot of parachutes for pilots. And that's where they kind of invented fake silk. Nylon, I think, was one of the first things that was used to replace silk. It's stronger, but it still has that kind of see-through characteristic that the stockings wanted, because stockings generally are kind of skin color, maybe a little bit darker than skin color, so it looks like you have a tan. And of course, they have more stylish, fashionable colors these days too. But it's a very thin material. And that's what they use. It says its peculiar or unusual strange name, silk stocking tea, comes from the cloth filter used during preparation. This is important, which resembles a silk stocking. First of all, silk stockings these days would probably be very expensive. And I think a lot of people would sort of think that the guy who runs the tea shop is just taking his wife's underwear and using it to make tea. So isn't it going to taste like her foot or something like that if you're using an actual silk stocking? No, it's really just kind of a long bag-like thing that sort of is made of similar material, but it's used to filter, right? Water and tea will go through, and the little tea leaves will get caught in the small holes of the stocking. So it's just being used kind of like a filter, kind of like a fishnet, the same type of structure, or a screen on your window that allows the wind to come through, but dirt and bugs to be trapped. But that is where the strange or unusual name comes from. It was similar to a silk stocking. It is a bag-like structure that sort of looks like a stocking, but it was really just used as a filter.
This drink has its roots in British colonial times when locals began blending strong black tea with evaporated milk. So it has its roots. It started in British colonial times. Colonial meaning when one country or group of people goes and takes over on a lot of levels another country or group of people and uses the resources of that country or that group to bring back to their own country to, give them the things they want in their days. So the British colonial times would have been times where the Brits were going out to a lot of different countries and taking over or a lot of the governments that are out there and creating or taking back what they wanted. For India, it would have been tea. So that's probably why we're connecting that with British colonial times. Locals began blending strong black tea with evaporated milk. Living in Taiwan, I've learned to make certain things, and evaporated milk is one of them. You can take milk, put it on the stove, and cook it for a while. And after a while, it goes to about 2/3 of what its original amount was, and that will be evaporated milk. So when about 40% of the water has evaporated out of it, then that is evaporated milk. And you have to watch out that it's not condensed milk, which we will talk about later. But condensed milk has all the water removed from it and has sugar added to it. Evaporated milk is not sweet. Today, it remains a symbol of everyday life in Hong Kong and is often served in tea restaurants. So the British colonial times, actually here, of course, we're talking about when the Brits were in Hong Kong. Today, it remains. It still exists. It lasts. It's still around, a symbol of everyday life. Things can remain because they are memorial. So you might have a statue that remains in the city square for hundreds of years to remind you of a war that was held not far from there. Something else that might be remains is if you are using it as a noun. Human remains is talking about a body after the person has passed away. But here it remains, it sticks around as a symbol, as a sign, as a real clear sign of everyday life in Hong Kong and is often served in tea restaurants. Let's take a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今天要带大家来喝珍珠奶茶哦。不过我们大家对于台湾的珍珠奶茶当然很熟悉啦，所以今天要带大家到世界看看其他国家的一些奶茶到底长什么样子，好不好喝呢？好，我们来到文章当中啊，今天设计成克漏字，也就是综合测验这种题型。那这个题型当中，其实在大考里面5题差不多会考1题动词变化，那其他会有各式各样呢这个词类的一些题型。所以我们今天啊，一样照例的会着重在这个动词变化部分的解题哦。好，我们刚刚说台湾当然就是珍珠奶茶啦，不过第一段的最后一句通常会开启文章接下来的内容。那我们今天的文章也不例外，像我们第一段的第2句，最后一句这边刚好也是我们的第一题。这边的第2句讲说啊，很多的国家都有自己的奶茶，对不对？当然就是受到当地口味啊、传统啊、历史等等的影响。好，那么这一题因为刚好考的也是一个动词变化，所以我们仔细来看第一段的第2句，这个地方逗点之后啊，其实它是一个关系子句的简化。好，换句话说，其实这个句子逗点前面的先行词是 their own versions， 他们自己的一些奶茶版本，而逗点之后本来应该是 which are shaped by local tastes, traditions and histories， 所以它是一个关系子句 which省略 be 动词 are 变成 be-ing 之后 be-ing 再删掉剩下过去分词 shaped， 所以它是一个非系定用法补充说明关系子句的简化。第一题答案选 C。 好，来到第2段我们就看到香港啦。香港最有名的就是丝袜奶茶，对不对？可是这样听起来有点恶心，怎么可能用丝袜来弄奶茶呢？其实是这样子的，就是说在制作过程当中啊，有一种布质的滤网看起来很像丝袜一样。我们看第2段的第2句哦，这边有一个关系子句的简化，先行词就是我们刚刚说这个布质滤网 the cloth filter， 后面 use 的一直到逗点可以左右括号，一样是省略了 which is， 在制作过程当中 which is used 被使用的那一种布质滤网啊， 看起来就好像是丝袜一样，所以叫做丝袜奶茶。可来到接下来的第二题，也就是第二段第3句这个地方啊，当然我们根据上下文去推测它的答案是 B 啦，就是说起源于 British Colonial Times。在这个句子当中，我们特别注意一下逗点之后的 when 一直到句尾，也是补充说明的关系子句哦。只不过这边的 when 呢，它是一个关系副词，表示时间，因为先行词逗点是这个 British Colonial Times， 所以逗点之后整个是补充，而在那个时候加完整子句，当地人就发展出了这个丝袜奶茶。
All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back.
All right, we are back, and we're looking at different milk tea forms across cultures. We just started quite near to home in Hong Kong, learning about silk stocking tea. I still love it. It has a special unique taste. Sometimes they mix it with coffee, too, to give it that very unique taste. But yes, a trip to Hong Kong is not complete without having a good Hong Kong cafeteria breakfast and a nice strong cup of their silk stocking tea. Let's move to another tea that maybe in flavor isn't too different from Hong Kong tea. Thai milk tea. And of course, Thai would be the adjective for things that come from Thailand. So Thai milk tea is known for its bright orange color. Yeah, that's true. It is kind of a brownish orange, but definitely more orange than many types of tea, which might have more of a yellow tint to them. And what's going on here? It says, what makes its color so vivid is the use of food coloring. I had no idea. So there you go. Food coloring generally is not harmful to us. It won't change the flavor of your food. It just colors food. They often use it in baked goods, and birthday cakes and things like that. It helps people design food that just kind of looks more attractive. And it can also be used in packaged food to make things, just look better. I think they might use food coloring in orange juices or candies or things like that. Meats as well, possibly, to make the meat pinker and look healthier, to make the candy or the orange drink look more orange when it might just have kind of a watery, clear look to it otherwise. So food coloring is added to lots of different things, usually just for visual appeal to make it look nicer in some kind of way. And they do the same with Thai milk tea. Locals, that's Thai people in Thailand, make it taste rich. We don't just say locals for people in Thailand. I mean, people who live in a certain area are the locals, right? They're not visitors. They're from that place. So if you live in Kaohsiung and you were maybe born there or just live there now, you're a local. You're not a visitor or a tourist. So locals make it taste rich with strong tea, condensed milk, and sugar. Yeah, it's a very sweet form of tea. So you're using a strong tea, which may give you a more caffeine or something like that, give you a little extra kick to your tea, but without the condensed milk, which, as Leah explained, is milk with most of the water and sugar added to it, and extra sugar too, makes it rather a sweet version of tea, a sweet brew, but that's also to balance out the fact that it's strong tea. Without that condensed milk and sugar, it might be very bitter and very untasty or very difficult to drink. So the sugar balances out the bitterness of the tea. And then it's served over ice, so the ice will melt a bit, adding a little bit of water to it, thinning it out a little bit. And as it says, it's perfect. It's the perfect drink to beat the heat. Yeah, having a hot, brewed, boiling cup of tea in Thailand when it's 36 degrees outside might not really be appealing to a lot of people. Certainly not to me. So having a nice iced tea that's a little bit sweet would definitely be more attractive, more delicious. And served over ice, it's the perfect drink to beat the heat. In other words, on a hot day, have a glass of tea or have a cup of tea, and it's not hot. It's going to refresh you.
And not only that, but there's also spices that have been added. Those spices can be all of those different flavorings that you like, normally dried leaves or dried seeds or seeds and leaves that
Usually
have been
seeds. I think leaves are herbs.
Well, okay, I guess that does make sense. Yeah. And sometimes it might be ground as well to add certain flavors to the things that you like to eat. Here, the spices that are added are star anise and cardamom, which sounds lovely. Star anise actually starts out looking like a little star, and then you have to crush it down and and get it into its powder form, and it has a little bit of a licoricey form.
Yeah, it's used in a lot of Taiwanese food. I think like beef noodle soup is flavored with
It's in the 5-spice, I believe.
And 5-spice as well.
And cardamom is a little seed pod, and you can grind that one down into a powder as well, or you can cook it with a little oil to bring out the flavor, and it's just lovely. It's on a lot of Indian food as well. And those are sometimes added, making every sip a unique adventure. So every drink is so very, very special, not like anything else I've had. Then we've got Mongolia. In Mongolia, milk tea takes a different form. Mongolia, if you want to think of where that is, it's kind of sandwiched between China and Russia. I had an opportunity to do the Trans-Mongolian Railroad at one point. We stopped in Mongolia, and we had this tea known as sutecai. It's a salty drink traditionally brewed with tea leaves, milk, salt, and sometimes butter. When we talk about tea, we brew it. So you let it kind of sit in that hot water, and then oftentimes you'll take the leaves out. That's steeping it or brewing it, and letting it, bring all the flavors of those tea leaves out and getting them into the cup of tea that you're going to drink. And this particular milk tea doesn't go sweet. It goes salty. And not only salty, it goes salty and oily, because that gives you the fat you might need to give you a little bit more energy in your day. And that's why you're adding that butter in there. Sutecai is commonly served to guests as a sign of respect. We did drink it a lot when we would go to different yurts and travel around out in the middle of nowhere. And it was really filling a lot of the time. But it is an acquired taste, which means it takes a little while to get used to it.
Yeah, especially if you haven't been warned that it has salt and not sugar in it.
And butter.
That would definitely be a bit of a shock. But yeah, I could see how it would certainly be interesting. And it's also interesting how tea is often served as a sign of respect, right? In England, they might invite you in for some tea. In China, of course, Japan has its very elaborate tea ceremony. So it's very similar in Mongolia, and I know Mongolian people can be very welcoming, as people in, harsh climates are. And it says there, for generations, for many, many years, it has sustained nomadic people through harsh winters. Mongolia is a tough country to live in. It's very flat, very open, very dry, very windy, and the people are nomadic. So this is for generations. When we talk about a generation, that's basically the length of time between a parent having one group of people having children. So if we have a home that has the children and the mother and father living in it, the parents and the children, that's one generation. If you include the grandparents, that's two generations, I should say. With the parents and the children, the grandparents, that would be 3 generations.
Multi-generational house.
A multi-generational house. But generally, when we use it, unless we're really talking about like a family history, a family tree or something, when we say for generations, we just mean for a very long time. For hundreds of years, we could probably replace that word generations there. So it's not a new thing. It's been something that's been around for a long time. Maybe even Genghis Khan drank this stuff when he was rampaging there across Mongolia hundreds of years ago. For a long time in Mongolia, it has sustained, it has, given nourishment and kept nomadic people alive there through harsh winters. Because as we mentioned, in Mongolia, people don't farm crops. They farm horses. Horses were the main sort of thing that people would raise and trade and buy and sell. And if you're nomadic, you move around, right? Nomadic people are following the horses, following the wild berries that they may be able to pick off trees. They're not settled farmers who are farming the same plot of land season after season. They're moving around, following the weather, following the animals, following the food in many cases. So it helped people there survive through the long, harsh winters. And of course, it is definitely a very unique type of tea that you probably can't find many other places.
And each version of milk tea that we have talked about today, there's not just one, there's not just 2, there's not just 3, there's a few. Each version, each variety of it, carries the unique flavors of its culture, right? We've talked about the Mongolian tea, we've talked about the Thai tea, the tea in Hong Kong, the tea in Taiwan. Those are different cultures. All of those are different cultures, making every cup meaningful in its own way. So because you enjoy the process of drinking the tea, because you get to enjoy the flavors of the tea, it gives it meaning. It makes it mean something to you, and it's based on the culture that you are visiting or live in. All right, guys, let's listen to our Chinese teacher one more time.
接着就来到我们第3段咯。我们第3段看一下这个泰式奶茶，真的超好喝的，冰冰的泰式奶茶，没有错，冰冰的。所以我们在第3段先看到第4句这个地方，冰冰的泰式奶茶，当然里面就是有冰啊。可是第4句第一个字叫做 served， 这个 served 它是一个过去分词诶，而且 serve 在这边并不是服务的意思哦，因为 serve 这个动词除了服务意思之外，它还有端上餐点的意思。所以如果我们在句子一开始突然会看到 served 这种像是过去式又好像分词类的句子，我们再找找看，后面通常会有一个逗点，然后才会接上一个完整的句子。那我们很肯定它应该就是一个句子简化之后以分词开头的分词构句。那在这里是一个被动式的哦，用冰啊掺着再端上来给你的什么东西呢？真正啊做接受这样子的一个分词的这个主词其实是在逗点之后，所以后面的主词呢，我们看到的是哎呀，这个泰式奶茶是一个消暑的完美圣品。好，所以这里 serve 是一个分词构句，可是接下来的第5句呢，我们就看到它又是一个关系子句的简化。怎么说呢？逗点之后的 making 啊，其实省略的是 which。 好，我们先把 which 跟 makes 还原，但是 which 这个关带要特别注意，如果是逗点之后的 which， 也就是补充说明的关系子句，通常 which 可以有2种功能。第一种功能，逗点之前会有一个名词先行词，或者它可以取代的是逗点前面的一整句话。那当然在这里我们要根据文意来做一个判断。第5句在这边我们提到说，这个泰式奶茶有时候会添加像是八角啦或小豆蔻这些香料，而这种添加的情况就可以让每一口都很有风味。所以逗点之后 which makes 的 which 应该指的是逗点前面的一整句话。那这边要特别提出来的原因是因为接下来我们的第5段这一句话刚好也是同样一个句型，所以我们跳到文章最后面的地方，逗点之后的 making 我们也先还原成为 which makes， 而在这里的 which 指的是逗点前面一整句话。也就是说每一种版本的奶茶都有各种各样的这种文化的独特风味，而这种情况 which makes 才使每一杯都会有独特的意义。那当然我们还是不能够省略掉一个很重要的解题，也就是第5题啦。那我们回到第4段这个地方，第4段啊，在第5题这里我们看到用的答案呢，我们选的答案是一个现在完成式。其实因为关键的原因是因为啊，第5题句首的地方我们看到的是 for 加上一段时间 for generations， 已经有好几世代了。那么这样子的一个奶茶，蒙古奶茶 has sustained it， 只要是 for 加一段时间，我们动词一定都会用现在完成式，表示动作从某一个过去时间点一直持续到现在为止。以上就是我们今天的世界奶茶巡礼，希望大家喜欢。我是安娜，我们下次见。
So, Mike, you said it was going to be time to get some tea.
It is time to get some tea.
Time to get some tea.
It's tea time.
Tea time. For English Digest, I'm Leah.
And I'm Mike.
Tea time.
Bye-bye.